Back now on Triad Today, and once a month or so, we're always honored to have Clarke Dummit from the Dummit Law Firm with us. Lori, as we see our special guest, and he drops by to give us various kinds of legal tips. And Clarke emailed me this morning and said, hey, let's talk about something that concerns people, and that's medical malpractice. So, Clarke, the first question is, what constitutes medical malpractice?
Well, that's a complex issue, but ultimately there has to be a duty to take care, and any doctor has a duty. There has to be a material breach of that duty, and that's the real issue of whether or not a doctor followed the proper procedures or didn't, because every human is a little different. We're organisms.
Right.
So what happens in one human may not always happen in another, so there is some gray area in it, and that's where we litigate, in that gray area.
Now, how common and pervasive are medical malpractice, or medical errors anyway?
Well, you know, that's impossible to tell because a lot of them don't get reported. And I brought with me this one statistic, and I'll just read it to you. A comprehensive study that was done a few years ago said that there are 37 million patient records over a 3-year period were reviewed and showed that an average of 125,000 deaths each year occur from preventable negligence in hospitals.
Oh, my God. I mean, what can, other than, of course, you can't get more serious than that, but I mean, what kind of other things can happen in medical malpractice cases?
Probably the most blatant ones that you see, and typically the hospitals and the doctors want to apologize for them, and typically will pay them off and work with you, is when they leave an instrument inside your body when they're operating.
Right, I've read about that before.
Or when they operate on the wrong organ or the wrong leg. And that stuff still goes on today in these large institutions that are moving 10, 20, 30 patients through in a morning trying to get everything done quickly. Those sort of errors still occur. But let me...
Go ahead.
Those are the drastic ones. There are still the ones that are out there where doctors are doing an operation and maybe they're moving too quick, but they cut the wrong organ accidentally when they should have been cutting another, and that can cause major damage to a person for the rest of their lives.
Well, now, how can a person actually prove medical malpractice? I mean, I guess in extreme cases, you know, you're going to know that something's wrong with you immediately, but I mean, how do you prove these things?
Well, that's difficult, and that's also a fairly expensive procedure, and that's why these cases do cost a lot to litigate. We have to, as lawyers, before we can even file a complaint, we have to follow North Carolina rules and get a J9 certification, and that's a fancy way of saying that we've got to hire a doctor to look at all the medical records and say, yes, that was negligent, that shouldn't have happened.
So an actual physician has to look at these to see if another physician has had a problem.
Yes, and so these, when you hear on TV that these lawsuits are running wild and it's driving doctors out of business, it's just not true. We don't file, no lawyer will file a lawsuit until a doctor has said, that shouldn't have happened, that's negligence.
Because that would be frivolous and irresponsible.
And it would get thrown right out, and the lawyer could get in trouble.
Yeah, and very quickly, we're almost out of time, but how do you prove there's been an actual breach of the standard of care? Because that gets into a subjective thing.
That gets right into experts, and it's a battle of who has the expert witness that says that shouldn't have happened.
And just so I mean, there are all sorts of things people sue for these days, legal malpractice, medical malpractice, but I mean, at least we've gotten some, you know, advice about this, and I've been enlightened a little bit, so I hope it helps. For more information, you can go to nclawyer.com, and that's the Dummit Law Firm site there, and you can get all sorts of information. Clarke, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.